Welcome to the Cyberbrief Project. If this is your first time here, I write and speak about creative and unexpected cyber attack techniques to better understand how attackers think, what they target, and how we as defenders can sharpen our visibility. So, let's take a closer look at the following attack technique. Scattered Spider is not a typical cybercrime group. Their operations don't begin with malware or rely on vulnerabilities. Instead, they gain access by impersonating real users, speaking to real help desk employees, and requesting real password resets. It's a social engineering-driven campaign that leads step by step into full control of an organization's virtual infrastructure. We'll focus on one specific technique used in these campaigns: the disk swap attack on ESXi. It's a method that takes advantage of how virtual machines are managed in VMware environments. The goal is to extract the most sensitive asset in many enterprise networks without ever touching the operating system from inside. The method is quiet, effective, and designed to avoid detection. The attack starts with a phone call. Scattered Spider, also tracked as UNC3944 or Octo Tempest, uses social engineering to gain access to internal systems. They impersonate IT staff or executives and call the organization's help desk. Through repeated, well-crafted calls, they convince the support team to reset passwords for high-privilege accounts. Sometimes this step is supported by domains that imitate the victim's infrastructure. Once inside the environment, they begin mapping out internal systems. They collect IT documentation, credentials, and identity flows, often using secrets stored in password managers or privileged access management tools. Their goal is not just access, but strategic positioning. After collecting internal credentials and understanding the environment, the attackers move to the virtualization layer. They access the vCenter server appliance and begin managing ESXi hypervisors, like administrators. With control over vCenter, they enable SSH access on the ESXi hosts, reset root passwords, and deploy an encrypted reverse shell for persistence using a tool called Teleport. At this point, they are no longer operating at the endpoint level. They are inside the virtualization platform that controls the servers themselves. Most traditional detection tools are not built to monitor activity at this layer, which gives the attackers freedom to move without triggering alerts. One of the group's most notable tactics is the use of a disk swap technique to quietly extract the NTDS to DIT file. This file is the central database of Active Directory, which contains all usernames and password hashes. To do this, they first power off the domain controller virtual machine. Then they detach its virtual disk and attach it to a different virtual machine under their control. From this secondary VM, they access the virtual disk directly and copy the ntds.dat file. Once the copy is complete, they reverse the process. They detach the disk from the decoy VM, reattach it to the original domain controller, and power it back on. This approach is highly effective because it avoids interacting with the original system's operating system altogether. From the outside, the domain controller appears unchanged. Nothing is modified on the host, and no software is executed inside the VM. The only indication of compromise would come from virtualization logs, if they are even being collected and reviewed. Once the attackers complete the data extraction, they move to disable the organization's ability to recover. They remove backup jobs, delete snapshots, and destroy repositories. These actions prevent system restoration and increase pressure during the ransom negotiation phase. The final step involves uploading a custom ransomware binary to the ESXi hosts over SSH using Secure Copy, SCP, or SFTP. The binary is executed directly from the host level, encrypting the virtual machines without ever touching their internal file systems. Because these actions take place outside of the guest operating systems, endpoint detection and response tools remain unaware. According to Mandiant and Google, this entire sequence from the initial call to full ransomware deployment can take only a few hours. This technique highlights a shift in attacker behavior. Instead of relying on malware or exploit chains, the attackers operate like administrators. They move through systems using valid credentials, take advantage of trusted infrastructure, and complete their objectives without generating traditional indicators of compromise. The disk swap method, in particular, challenges several common assumptions. It shows that even when the operating system appears clean, attackers may still be able to extract sensitive data through external access to the VM's virtual disk. It also reveals how attackers can perform devastating operations, using only the features provided by the virtualization platform. To defend against this type of attack, organizations need to apply security controls not just to endpoints and servers, but also to the infrastructure that manages them. Start by hardening the ESXi environment. Disable SSH access when not in use. Enable lockdown mode and configure hosts to enforce exec installed only, which limits execution to signed packages. Use VM encryption so that even if a disk is copied, it cannot be read without access to the encryption keys. Identity protection is equally important. Enforce phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication for all administrative accounts. Treat the help desk as a critical attack surface. Train support staff. Limit their ability to reset privileged accounts and verify requests through out-of-band methods. Finally, monitor virtualization activity. Centralize vSphere and ESXi logs and include events like VM disk detachment, reattachment, and power state changes. If your visibility stops at the operating system, you may never know this attack happened. Scattered Spider's use of the disk swap technique is a reminder that the virtualization layer is no longer just an infrastructure detail. It is now a primary attack surface. The attackers didn't find a vulnerability. They simply understood how virtualization works and used it in a way defenders didn't expect. This kind of operation bypasses common defenses, not because those defenses are weak, but because they are looking in the wrong place. If we want to defend against modern ransomware groups, we need to broaden our view of what counts as a critical system. The hypervisor is no longer behind the scenes. It's part of the battlefield. I'm sharing these techniques to help defenders think more clearly about how attackers really operate. If this raised a new perspective for you, consider subscribing and share it with someone who would value the same clarity. Thank you for listening.